Okay, I've been thinking about it and I did a little testing trying to talk. Didn't go well. I looked at myself on YouTube today and decided that I'm not a good speaker. And so I'm inundated with applications from you folks, which is very flattering, but I don't know why. Um, Maybe you can kind of see through my, and let me think. Uh, it's hard for me to prepare. Um, I've been doing this since 2011. I lost my house, $600,000 house. I was not late on it. It was a GMAC, and if any of you have been in the GMAC res cap, largest bankruptcy in the history of the United States, which the lead character in this is Ally Bank, and Ally Bank is the only one that escaped. There were 54 creditors, and there were something like 10 million homes. Mine wasn't one of them, and I knew that. Actually, the way I was foreclosed on was to evict me first and then foreclose on me. And I'm smart enough to know what was happening. But Missouri, literally at that time, had a um, law that you could not protest in any way an eviction. Yet evictions are for occupants, and occupants we think of as tenants. But I'll even go further than that. Or some people that moved in your house as trespassers because your house sat around for a while and the person taking care of it didn't. All that happened to me. And then I ran into the judge from hell, um, a state judge in Benton County, Missouri, and I don't want to say his name, Baker. First name, oh, I will say in a little bit. But anyway, um, state judges in a lot of states um, are elected like prom queens, and they have to be an attorney. They had to pass the bar. Honestly, I should throw this in. I think I can pass the bar. I'm glad I didn't when I was 20 because I'd probably just now be getting out of prison. Instead, I've lived a good life. I believe in telling the truth, not because it's moral and not because um, it it helps you. If you lie, it helps you get something done, but you're always having to clean up after that. And if you tell the truth and you do the thing you said you would do, you get more business without trying because people tell each other about you. And I don't understand the other way. Um, I don't even know where I was headed with that. I told you this would be a problem. I probably will turn this off and I won't do it now. I haven't shaved. I didn't feel like doing this, but I've got to get started. I've disappointed some people. I have not gotten back to everybody that wrote to me, but I have to tell you, I'm astonished at the number of people that are being foreclosed right now and that are desperately in trouble, and large majority of them have zero money at all. And I had actually dropped out for 3 years, and I've got to tell you that I also lost $4 million worth of property, investment property, a really nice duplexes. And my wife and I built 28 fourplexes. We sold them all, some of them to some wild lawyers out in San Francisco, and I never got any complaints, but I don't know what they did with them. Anyway, we kept the money because we were doing real estate at the time. We were making some money, and we were doing fine, so we just put the money in the bank. And uh, when we were done, we still owned 8 duplex lots, nice big duplex lots. We built nice big duplexes. I'm in the Kansas City area. It was in a brand new subdivision, and uh, we used the money in the bank and we paid for them. So I never had a loan. And Fannie Mae, the only foreclosing party in the country that I know of, except for the fake ones, um, Fannie Mae um, takes a position they're part of the government, and so even if they're guilty, I can't sue them. So I lost 4 million, and I lost my house, and it was I've also kind of ruined my life. It was very, very, very hard on my wife. Nothing was her fault. She was by my side, working with me for 22 years, and I really miss her. I really miss the. She was my staff, and she was very good at staff, which is one of the problems I'm having now. There's some things I'm really very good at, and there's some things I would say I'm not very good at, and I'm not very good at handling files with papers in them. I suppose I do fine with empty files. This goes back to before computers when I had at one time 5 bookkeepers, and if I wanted something I needed a file, they'd stop me, wave their hands, and had red flags and yellow flags and warning sirens. And they'd go, "Hang on, we'll get it." And they'd get it, bring it, lay it on my desk, and say, "Now, when you're done, don't touch it. Go to lunch. Go find one of your friends." I'm from a little town. I could always find a friend to go eat and laugh with. And so when I come back, it'd be put away. Luckily, when I got older, um, computers do exactly the same thing. I can just write on them and do file folders and get things out and have it all messed up. When I shut it off, it puts everything away. I'm not trying to put people out of work like at the grocery store. I never go through the check out yourself line because I don't want to take anybody's job. Um, and I'm glad I'm like that. So I'm going to try to tell you what's been happening with me, why it's been hard to get back with everybody, and what I'm doing to hopefully change that as quickly as I can. I think if you're on here now, you've read that we, you know, in from 2011 to 2025, 24, I, I took on directly 151 families' homes and taught them, instructed, guided, kind of like a ski instructor, uh, to fight back with foreclosing parties that aren't. It isn't so much before 1999, and I'll get to that. Maybe not today, but it's really, really important that Congress repealed a law called the Glass-Steagall Act, Finance Act of 1934. Um, and when they did, that was all of the regulation on Wall Street. This is 1999. Okay, it had been a law for 34 years, 30, no, 67 years, I think. And when they repealed it, they put nothing back at all. So basically, Wall Street has been unregulated since 1999. And I can explain that in a way that you'll believe me because I tell the truth. No, because it will be the truth. Um, but so then the first big crisis is 2008. We know that if you've tried to watch The Big Short, which I hope you have not, it does not help someone that doesn't know much about it because that movie's about some guys that were selling the bad mortgage-backed security instruments. They're called REMIC Trust, Real Estate Mortgage Investment Conduit. And they were making money and something was wrong. Things were happening. They didn't know what it was. And that the whole movie is about them trying to figure out what it is that they're doing that's wrong. And they ended up making like $1 billion. And all the characters in that movie are true. But it wouldn't be helpful until maybe we do this and then get our hypnotized, and then all need counseling. I'm thinking about doing all that right now. But let's get to what I was doing. I knew in 2012 almost everything that I use today, and I started winning recently. But that's only in the last 6 months. Before that, I was used a lot and I could never win. However, almost all of my clients would call me with, 6 days before an eviction, or they were being foreclosed on, or they had a sale coming up within a week. and they had already paid attorneys $1,700 a month for a year, or you probably know better than me. But I've had people say they spent $28,000, $19,000, and they didn't have any money left. And I started doing this because of my house, and then later because of the investment property. And then my friends would get in trouble, and they'd call me, and so I started helping them. I never got into this business, and believe me, I have spent way, way, way more than I've ever taken back. But I've learned. But also, basically, I'd say I learned everything. I learned most of what I use today in 2012. Um, you'll see me say along the way 3 simple words. If you just get these 3 simple words, it'll help you understand everything. Those words are injury in fact. I intend to get back to it. It is one of the videos I have, but I have more videos than you've seen. I don't know if I can tell this. I don't know how much time you got. I may make this a two-parter. Um, the um, injury in fact is what I do is based on the Constitution, and I did that because I was so frustrated because I had this giant belief. I had a giant belief in my country. Figure that. And I never thought much about Congress. I really don't like um, lobbying, and I really, really don't like the super PACs. That's the problem we're in today. I don't, I have not this entire time, and I am a debater. I like to talk about things. I don't like anyone to think that I'm always right, because I'm not always right. That's the reason I like to visit. I'm trying to get different perspectives, and I'm trying to hear the different things that people say, because that gives me another look, and maybe I know something, I learned something from him. I've decided that I'm voice actuated. I was born voice actuated. Well, I live in the country now. I've lost my wife. Um, I say in the country. I'm on a real estate project that I can't start because of this business. And this is what I came here to do. And for some reason, I went to a YouTube. I had a YouTube channel for 10 years, and I visited it like 4 times. And when you guys look, if you look, some of those videos have been on there for a long time. 2011, 2010, I think, and some are new. But I didn't do one thing. I'd been watching YouTube mainly because of the Ukraine war and the respect I have for what they're trying to do, and how they want to be a democracy like America, which I find kind of humiliating. I don't think we, I don't believe we're the best democracy in the world. I don't think 30 million people can lose their house to a foreclosing party that has no interest in their house. And by the way, and I will not tell you as we go along here that you don't owe the money. I will tell you that if you do win, you'll never, if you win against someone you do not owe, it's, that's against the law. You can't pay someone you don't owe because you still owe whoever you owe. So if someone's got your promissory note and a judge gives your house away to a party that had no interest in it, you still owe the money. Although you can't, because you're constitutionally protected from paying for the same thing twice because of fraud. And I'm going to take one short break. Um, I need a drink of water. My mouth is already dry. Um, and so the 3 simple words, injury in fact, is that the framers, here's what we're all doing. I don't want to do that first. I want to do some of this first. There are common things that are slowing me down and helping people. One is they don't know their case. One is they don't have any records. And the third one is they have all the records. They have so many records that when they send it to me, I can't pick it apart. I wasn't there. They felt every moment of it, like you've been feeling every moment of it. They felt every moment. They felt every hurt. They knew something was wrong. I've never really had a client that didn't understand that something was wrong. But we were raised that if you had a fire, you call the fire department. Um, if someone's breaking into your house, you call the police department. If you're sick, you call the doctor. And so we all believed, most of you still believe in attorneys. But I have not seen a single attorney. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know anyone that's seen more cases than me. And I'll get back to the way I was considered good is that I couldn't win either. But what I did better than everybody else is that I could keep people in their house for 5 years. And I could have done it, I don't know, maybe for 500 years or 50 years. Normally, what happened is that the family, um, the husband would come to me or the wife and they'd say, look, this is, for you saved us money every month. They had high payments and I wasn't doing it for money. So I would charge the least I could. I'd talk to him about it and see what could be done. And people, especially in the early years, till about 2015 or 16 or 17, most people paid me what they said they would. Sometimes late, sometimes unbelievably, and I put a stop to it when I figured out what I was doing. I had to drive throughout. I'm from Kansas City. Um, I'd drive throughout Kansas City to go pick up my money, and then I would find that when they gave me a check, it was from Bank of America, sometimes the same bank that was foreclosing on it. It doesn't hurt, but why? Why? Anyway, let's forget that. I've already forgotten. No, I haven't. I've remembered all those years. Um, so we're going to talk about what are the things happening right now. And what's happened is that at the very beginning, the bad guys, which were never the lender on your note, your promissory note, which I bet you do not have. You may have a copy that was in the file they gave you at closing, but it's not the promissory note. It doesn't have the correct endorsements. And the lender on it is going to be like, um, who's some of the big ones? Countrywide, um, uh, American Brokers Conduit, Washington Mutual. Washington Mutual, quite a story there. And if you're involved in that, we know all about that too. There's no good loans, no good foreclosures came out of Washington Mutual, especially once it went to Chase Morgan. Um, but so anyway, what you don't have is you don't have your note, and the note is the evidence of the debt that you took on to buy the house. So when you bought the house, you signed the note that said you owed this much money. Now, the next day, you owed a different amount of money. You closed, and then you had 1 day's interest, and so your loan went up. At the end of the month, you then, at the beginning of the next month, you paid, and now it all went down, but not as much as the amount you paid because you paid principal and interest. At the beginning of the loan, you're paying more interest than you are principal, but still your note changes the amount owed all the time. And I started calling that because of the unbelievable misuse of the notes that they're doing. There are no notes. You won't see one. You won't find one. They don't have yours. They told you that their lawyer has it in a safe that's in the floor at their office. I've got one now. I've not seen this very much. I just got one not long ago that they had some guy that worked kind of for them one time did an affidavit of a certification of the note that it was lost. This is the stupidest thing. This whole deal did make me laugh, and I like to laugh. I'm a social person. I don't get mad, but this has kind of spoiled my hippie, um, um, love, dance, and wear a flower days. But anyway, so there's a certification of lost note. And not only that, they go to a lot of trouble to tell all the places they look for it. Then they say that it genuinely is lost, and the lender, the party that's foreclosing, has no idea where it is. Therefore, we're asking the court, we did own the note and we are the correct party, and we just asked the court if we could just move on without it. And it kind of said that. That made me laugh. Laugh in the old days, like when you're in high school, and I'm, I'm not even gonna tell, but you know the things that you laughed at to out uncontrollably. That felt really good because you can't lose a note, you can't lose $100 bill and go claim one as your own. If you lose your baby, you've got to find the same baby. You know, you can't take somebody else's baby, and you can't say everything's fine, the baby's just lost and we don't know where it is. And they said, we genuinely do not know where it is, so obviously we cannot get it. Okay, the Uniform Commercial Code comes into a lot of what I talk about, but I don't talk about it very much because it pretty much is centered on the note, which no one's ever going to find of yours. UCC 3, UCC 9, negotiable instruments, and negotiable instruments that have collateral. And those are things that you would normally would deal with, and almost everything people are getting foreclosed on today would not have happened before 1999. It wouldn't have happened. There were 49 foreclosures in all of Jackson County, which is the larger part of Kansas City, Missouri, and all of the eastern suburbs. It's 600 or 700,000 people. In 1994, there were 49 foreclosures in total in that year. And after that, they kind of stayed around that range. $49 to 49 total loans foreclosed, to say 70, um, as we get up to closer to 1999. That's 1994, and those are numbers that are they were probably loans that need to be foreclosed, which isn't always a bad thing. I would tell a story that'll help you here. I am going to do this in two parts. Um, that my Aunt Helen, and I was about 20, and I was always kind of bent this way, like I say I'm a builder, but I can't drive a nail. Um, Something else I say and I can't do. That was a good ski instructor because I built some condominiums in Keystone, Colorado, in the middle '90s, and I also had to zone them, and I had to find builders and architects and surveyors and engineers, and it took me about 2 days a week, and I was living in Keystone, and so having been a medium skier uh, for my whole life, this is my 40s, so like for 25 years, um, I had nothing to do except for maybe 1 or 2 days a week, and it was a really bad economy in Colorado, and there was a bar for sale in my parking lot, and it was not nice, but it was a great dive bar. It had all the coolers in it and had all everything. Anyway, I went in and said how much to a realtor that lived next door. How much to buy a bar? He said next month's rent. I said, what are you renting it for? $2,000. And it had all the plates. It had everything. And so I went and got a liquor license, and then I ran that with a bunch of people kids from all over the world that worked there, New Zealand, and why was I telling you that? It was a good time. It was a great time. Um, but I'm going to get back to what we're talking about, promissory notes. And the when you make a loan, you sign a promissory note, and you don't keep it, but you should have a copy. and it should be you had a folder at closing, I believe you had, and it had every document you signed. And sometimes they had the document that you signed or that you were going to sign in the closing, but they gave you the packet, and then you signed the document. They didn't make a copy of the document. The one I've almost never seen is you never get a copy of the note as it was signed, or even where they filled out who the lender was. So finding out who your lender was on your note is quite a trick. We know that if you went to a brokerage, which you almost certainly did, there's millions of them, um, and you went to a broker, um, and a lot of times they're fairly small and they don't have any money, but they're going to broker your loan. What they are is they're the finders. They refer you to someone bigger. Well, we all thought, and in fact, those brokers, the smaller brokers, all thought that they were getting the money to loan because they had a line of credit with a regional bank that would loan the money or would send the money to closing. And they always tell them, said, and they made the broker put their name as the lender, which is against the law. The other thing against the law is that a broker cannot arrange a loan for you if you think they're the lender, and they can't say they're the lender, much less put it on the loan, but they can't even they have to disclose that they are a broker, and they have to tell you what the fee they got for brokering your loan was at the time you closed. Never done. It's never done. So that's one of the first things I'm going to say is that your paperwork and your note's missing, it's gone, and it has to do with the mortgage-backed securities you're going to hear about from time to time, which are real estate mortgage investment conduits, REMIC trusts. And they're trusts, and they have really wild names, and these guys made up wilder names, and they've got to be done in a certain year, and they have to be done very carefully. They never were. But they're called mortgage-backed securities because they're backed by your house, because it's on your mortgage. Now, let's talk mortgages. The mortgage is a security instrument, and it secures the lender that if something happens to you or you become unable to make payments, then you said we'll use this for collateral, and then whatever you use for collateral, you both agree to, and then you sign it. And the mortgage has no other purpose. It has nothing to do with the loan, nothing to do with the amount. It only says what you can use as collateral. So when these guys say we're going to foreclose on you under the mortgage, that's not true. You know, they're just saying we're going to use the house that's in the mortgage. It's just your agreement. But the note is the loan. And the note is the evidence of the debt. The debt is the money. You got money and you bought a house and you paid whoever sold you the house, or if you had builders, whoever you owed, in order to get the house clean for them to take, you took the money from closing that you borrowed and you gave it to the lender. That's how we all saw it. That's how I saw it. That's one of the funny things is I think I know as much about real estate as anybody I've ever met, and I'm going to include every lawyer I ever met that says they're a real estate lawyer. I didn't know anything about crime. That's what took me a while. I knew exactly what was happening to me, but Missouri had some unusually odd laws, and in fact, is for 250 years, they'd been saying that you could not question a foreclosure or an eviction, basically an eviction, even if your foreclosure was bad and everybody knew it. In fact, as you get a deed from a foreclosure, sheriff's deed, they're called sometimes. We call them a trustee's deed, which is only in a now here's the other problem. We have non-judicial foreclosure states and judicial foreclosure states. There's 26 non-judicial foreclosure states, 24 judicial foreclosure states, and the rules are so wacky that in a judicial foreclosure state, it's done like the Constitution would tell us to do it. and it's arranged that way. It's a straight line from top to bottom. The lender or the person of interest has to sue you, and we're really going to get into that in the next two videos. Um, uh, it, the lender sues you if you're like in Florida or Kansas or New Jersey or um, no, New York. You know, we can go on. There's 24 of them. So really, we're talking about the security instrument, which is called a mortgage in um, judicial foreclosure states: Kansas, Florida, New Jersey, New York, and I know more than that right now, but I'm thinking about something else. So anyway, um, the, the the way this is supposed to be is that there's a promissory note, and you've been paying, and they will always say the same thing in court. They will not change it, and this is what drove us all out of our minds. They go, Danny Hammond signed a note on a date certain, and he also signed a mortgage. No, my non-judicial Missouri non-judicial foreclosure state. I signed a deed of trust, and things went just fine. And they went along and went along, and finally it comes to be that he got behind. He's in default, and he will not cure it. And we have the right to foreclose. It's the word "we" that's a real problem. We, they, it. You can't. You can't even. I won't don't let, stop clients every time and say, who are they? Who are we? You know, what is it? Um, so they say, and they are the people that are suing you, and they appear to be a lender, but they're represented by an attorney. And now the attorneys don't want to tell you who they are, which they have to do. This is stuff I set out 3 years at the end of this, because I didn't want to be a winner that just tell people keep their house 5 years. It's too hard on you. Um, and I nearly gave up on my own house. And then let's go a little further. We're talking about the things that, okay, so you have to have the promissory note. It has to be endorsed if somebody buys your debt, and the note is evidence of your debt because you got money that was your debt and you gave it away. Now there's no money. So there has to be something, a contract that says that you agree you got some money and you gave it to the people that you owed for the house, and that you do owe the lender who gave you the money. And they can sell your note, and then the other person becomes the person in interest, but they have to buy it. That if you pay money, it's called consideration. You have to have consideration. Okay, this is always true, never true in your foreclosure. And basically, what they're saying in your foreclosure is that you have stated a claim for which relief cannot be given because they own it. You didn't pay for it. They have the right for foreclosure. No such thing as a right for foreclosure. That's a collection action. There's only the right to collect money that is owed to you, and the person that owes you signed a contract agreeing that they owed it. That's the only way. That's the only person that can that can foreclose on you is the one that has the right to collect money, and you don't pay it, and you don't pay it on time, or maybe you never can pay it. Maybe you died. Maybe you ran off with a Hooters girl. That women, not as many women. Some women they might run off with Hooters girls. I don't know. That's not part of this discussion. So now we know the note has to be presented. It has to be there. You have to have it, and you can't send in an affidavit saying you lost it. But by the way, that company could easily have gone to court, a different court, and said we lost the note, and then they would have to prove that they owned the note with concrete and particularized evidence. You're going to hear me say it over and over. It's like Perry Mason and Boston Legal saying reasonable doubt, beyond reasonable doubt. That's a very strong burden for proof. But concrete and particularized is much stronger. So they have to prove that they own the note at the time it was lost, and then the court can give them um, a replacement, not a replacement, just like a note from the court saying this has been proven to us with real proof, and so you can't lose it. Um, um, and so, in the defense of my clients, I went. It was very distressing to hear the sad story about the loss of the notes because I think it's funny to say stuff like that, and a lawyer can't do it. And it's the cult. The cult keeps them from doing it. So I'll say, things like the only way that this could have been done is magic, and then I'll just move on. I think that's funny. I hope, I hope, and if you're watching this, it'd be hard to make you laugh. And I don't want to be, Gregory Graves here. Okay, so let's go on to, so they don't have the note. They didn't loan you the money. A broker did, but the broker put their name on it or someone's name on it. Not who's talking to you. It's someone in between, maybe two. So what were they to do once they decided to do this massive scheme of stealing a whole house and never paying the borrower or even their equity? And by that I mean, if you bought a house in 2006 and you're foreclosed in 2023 because you didn't pay in the last 6 months or a year, you know, you paid on that for 16 years. Some of the money is yours. In a foreclosure, you're supposed to get, and this would be one of the things coming up. I think I already have that video on. And by the way, the reason I have trouble um, doing a video, and I know people like them better, is that I've only used a website. I had 500 articles on my website. It's still there. The website is. I did pare it down because about half of them, all but 287 I kept. And the rest of them, they were relevant, but they were going to be confusing because I'd changed my mind. I'd learned something new and I was going to have to explain it. One of them is that my most popular video I put on there, like, I think it even says 11 or 12 years ago. And it says, I don't know if it says MERS, but it says that in most cases, the promissory note, and you want to say promissory note, because they're two different things. I'll probably talk about that someday. But the promissory note and the mortgage, which is the security instrument, which is the mortgage, the deed of trust, or whatever was used to secure the lender. That's why it's called a security instrument. But the note and the security instrument are split by what MERS does, and they're just split in every case if the note is not there. And that has been how I got back into this. I got on my YouTube channel and I've been watching about Ukraine, and I noticed that YouTube had built something truly wonderful, I guess. Sometimes I think the internet will be um, that we were unwise to use it, although it's great to keep out of a gunfight. And we're talking trivial. Uh, what's the game? Trivia. Yeah, in trivia, like when you're arguing who won the World Series in 1961. The Yankees. That's when Maris hit 61st home run. But normally I couldn't have told you that. So if you're that's when Google search really works well, is to keep people out of fights and keep people from breaking up and all that. Kind of like voting for Trump, which I have never gotten into, but I will before this is over. Not this particular. I don't know when I'll do it, but I, I'm not going to be quiet anymore. Just because I don't want to fight with people. I don't argue religion either, and you can't argue with me anyway. Which is another thing I want to say. I want to do a live, like a Zoom meeting or something, with all the people that want to be there. I want people to turn their questions in because I am going to try to figure out what I figured out. Okay, I went to YouTube. This is all out of order. I may not. I may do it over. I don't want to, but I may. Um, I went to my YouTube channel and I put two new videos on it. I didn't do one other thing. But what I had noticed is that I saw people that were taking up clauses like right now, Midas Touch is a law uh, group, not a group even. They talk about law and democracy. And I watched them start, and it was three brothers, and they had little kid microphones. Today they have 5 million viewers, and it's only 2 years. Um, and there's they've got maybe 10. They've got a whole network of things. And I figured out they're making money off of ads. To make money off of ads, you have to get a lot of people to look at your video. Um, let's start with before that. I lost $4 million of money that I didn't borrow. I lost a $600,000 house that I spent a year believing I was going to die in 2 years of mantle cell lymphoma in 2002. Um, in 2004, I still had enough money that I went and bought a $600,000 house because I had $1 million life insurance policy on my. Oh, okay, there's something you got to learn about YouTube. Um, uh, on my wife, and I figured I was only get to live in it a year. I wanted to live wherever I wanted, and it's cool house. It's not like Beverly Hills cool and like that. It's like cool for me, what I like, and what my wife liked, and um, and then I paid for from 2004 to 2012. I was foreclosed on by someone, GMAC Mortgage LLC, which doesn't exist. And in fact, well, I guess first they didn't register it in Missouri because it didn't exist, and then they just sent me. I've got articles I call little coupons. We all paid thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars in payments based on little coupons that came in the mail. Now, I didn't feel stupid then when I was doing it, but I sure think it was stupid now looking back. And you'll find that you pretty much believed everyone that called. You believed everyone that said they were a servicer were a servicer. I promise you that you didn't have any servicers. They're all probably based on Auckland, one of the first ones and the biggest ones. And so now what we know is we have a note that's missing, almost certainly. And um, the the biggest part of the current scan is this: is that the first thing I have anyone do that I'm even thinking about trying to help, and the reason I can't help is that I'm out of money. I am out of money, out of time, and I still own real estate free and clear in a lot. I mean, quite a bit. Nothing like that, but I'm still way up there. And I didn't borrow any money from 2012 to 2025, 24, and I didn't do it because I was going to secede from the Union. I was South Carolina. I was going first. Um, I did not get over the damage to my family, to myself. And the bad thing about that is, and I think that FICO score, by the way, there were no FICO scores in real estate until after 1999. You didn't buy a house based on your FICO score. And if they were honest, it's a stupid way to do it. I'll loan you $200,000 because I see here that you've made your last 3 months of payments, and you want to borrow $200,000. You're making 70,000 a year. You have a pickup, a boat, and a house, and you've made those three payments on time, and those three payments were a total of 600 a month. Okay, therefore you can borrow $200,000. It's done like that. I'm having to fix my credit score while I'm trying to help people with foreclosure, and while I'm trying to figure out money beforehand, or what can I do on this development to get it going. And I'm just stuck. I am absolutely stuck. That's part of the reason for this particular video is I want to explain to people I couldn't answer all of the calls and all of the applications that have been sent to me, although I'm done with what I was doing and I'm going to try to answer everyone. And I have a couple of plans, and one of them is the one that we're doing right now, YouTube. I put on two videos, so I had two new ones, and I had I think 17, that were 10 years old, 10 or 11 or 8. I think I saw one that was 5. I don't know why. Okay, some things I have to learn. Um, and um, so there has to be a way. Okay, I probably have way over 150 applications right now. I've never had, I haven't had two a month in the last 3 years because I wasn't writing anything on the website, and it's still bringing in 2,000 views a month. Um, and on that, I put, I was using PayPal, but now I find out that Elon Musk used to own it, so I don't. That's not why they cheated me out of $2,100. But anyway, I had PayPal and I had um, you know, it, it's not saying you owe me this. Would you contribute? Donate, and I got $27 over 3 years. So I took PayPal, and um, the people that I had that did paid, some were great. Some made me chase them. I've had people stiff me this year on these ones that have made me better known, and I'm not mad. I know what they were doing. They've got a family, they got a house. They just thought that if I would help them, that while I was doing that, they would figure out how to pay me. I, I'm not mad. I understand it. I want to raise money to help everyone because we all got in this thing with the same scam. This is in every county of every state. This is the hardest thing I had getting to my head, is that it's in every county and every state, and it's done the same exact way. And we're going to start with the security instrument, the mortgage, um, the deed of trust deed, security deed, different states, And the scam is this, that um, they they say they have a promissory note and they have your mortgage or deed of trust. They have a security instrument, and that's part of what gives them the right to foreclose because you haven't paid them. But they never show the note, and what notes I've seen are really, you know, if I was going to fake a note, because I think you can go to prison for that. I mean, I'm sure you can, but remember, I didn't study crime first. I just studied the law of real estate, so that's what I knew. Then I had to learn crime because this isn't about the law. So they had to use another way to do it. So they started assigning, and you will see in your package, you will see in your stuff, you will find if you talk to me, I'm going to want you to see the assignments of your mortgage that transferred somehow the ownership of your debt, or really your remaining debt. Don't, because they're going to try to keep all the money in the foreclosures. They're not doing anything you should do. So they're going to say they own the remaining debt, and MERS gets in the way of that, but it really doesn't my way, but it did the old way. And I'll tell you about the old way in just a second. Um, so they're saying that through an assignment of the mortgage, they own your debt, and you owe them, and they'll make the number up. You know, they've looked at it. They've got people doing it every day, and they'll have you believing that that's what you owe. And you know, um, that's like saying I lost my note, and I really did, and I don't know where it is. And the reason I don't know where it is because I don't know where it is. And since I don't know where it is, I shouldn't have to have it. So let's move on with the case. That's really funny. It's funny to me again. Um, so they're doing it with the assignment of a mortgage. Then what I have to do is tell my clients who have got their loan 11 years ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, go. I need for you, because they're rarely in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm actually elected to the Ozarks, Missouri, and I can't even see my neighbor's house. It's not where I want to be, but it's what I own, and I've got a lot of land to build on. But anyway, they um, first thing I'll tell a client to do is go to the recorder's office in your county, because you will have new things recorded that you don't know. Well, why would I have anything recorded? Because they have to record their assignment of mortgage, their assignment of deed of trust for you, those of you being non-judicially attacked. They have to have that assigned so that they can say, see, we have the assignment of the mortgage and we foreclose under the mortgage. That's not a term that's real. You don't foreclose under the attorney. You foreclose or under you don't foreclose under the mortgage or under the deed of trust. You're recording on the collateral that you have a right to because of the mortgage or deed of trust. And that is like a paragraph in the note. And it used to be not very long ago, I mean, 60s and 70s, people recorded their notes. I've started recording notes again because no one records them, so they're not recorded. But what is recorded and what they use, and where mortgage electronic, good God, been around, registration systems, Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems Incorporated. And I've got some long, long depositions from William Holtman, who was the chief financial officer, and the guy that owned the company. Anyway, I've got long depositions from both of them. I'm talking the hours. They were there a couple hours, and basically they said, well, we didn't ever put any money in anything. All we're doing is keeping track of the mortgages because counties don't do it fast enough. So what they're doing is ruining the county records in your state, my state, your county, my county. But the fact that they're on anything was a problem until you switch to what I'm doing. And as you're going to find, it's not hard. This is going to be much easier to explain um, than um, lacrosse. Okay, now, so we have problems with the note. We have problems with the um, security instrument, the mortgage or deed of trust, and um, then I have a sentence that I want to say, or it's a question. And I've been saying this to myself all along. You have been studying yourself. You've been looking for a silver bullet. You've been looking for that one statute, that one new case that's been, ruled on. And you're looking for that thing because your judge doesn't get it. You're trying to prove to your judge that you were foreclosed on, or you were not foreclosed on, you were foreclosed on wrongfully, that you've been defrauded. You are being defrauded. Someone's trying to take your house who has no right to, and you know that. I don't, I, I've never had a client that didn't get it. They didn't get it well enough, but they're not supposed to. You buy a Lamborghini, and if you take it to the Lamborghini mechanic and it's something in the motor, he can cheat you real bad. Um, because you don't know it, but you still know that you drive a Lamborghini. You know if it's got 12 cylinders, but you don't know how to fix that, noise. Um, this is the same thing, is that they know it, so they're looking for that law, that statute in the Facebook. It's full of Americans Against Foreclosure, good group, great people. Most of them are out of their mind, crazy. They've been trying too long, and they believe me. They believe that I'm right, and they cannot make themselves not hire a lawyer, an attorney. And we'll explain what's wrong with that. And it's not even completely the attorney's problem, unless you remember that the judge is an attorney too. Okay, so what I was really going to say there is that the question is that you're looking for a way to prove to a judge that you're being and you're panicking. You'll keep trying to convince him, and you won't notice that he's not answering anything. And that's when I quit. That's when I studied. That's when I wanted to see what can you do then, or is this over? Is the Constitution done? I mean, I don't think Trump can get it done, but he's gotten way further than he should. I mean, he's not a smart man. He's got charisma, and I don't know why. He doesn't have it for me. First time I ever heard him talk, I noticed that he said the same little phrases over and over and never got to the point. And if you don't like that, don't call me. Or if you don't like me saying that, and you do call me, don't tell me that you didn't like that, because I don't think I would. I don't know what I'll do. It's hard for me to tell people no, very hard. I know what it feels like. I know it hurts really bad. And if they've got a little kid with, you know, chocolate ice cream running down his chin, then I'm going to do it. And I need to have like some kind of a bouncer. Anyway, so the one thing I want to say there is, and I want you to remember this, and you won't, but you're going to see it on the website if you go there. You're going to see it here again if you come back. And if you hated me, it isn't going to matter. So, is a law a law? Is a law a law? Is it a law? If it is not enforced, that's the whole problem. The judges aren't enforcing the most basic law or set of laws we should be using. All of the statutes are in place, they're right there where they always were. The judge is not going to use them. The, the laws are all beautiful, but they're written by people that didn't ever fly on a 747. They lived through two wars. That'll make bind people together. You got somebody in a foxhole with you, and it's a guy that you wouldn't want to live next to. But you save each other's life a couple of times, and that's your buddy for life. We don't have that anymore. We're too distant. The internet and this misinformation and lying thing and hating. I don't hate half the people, but half of the people hate me, even if they don't know it, because I haven't said much about it till just a minute ago. Okay, so is a law if it's not enforced? During the 3-year hiatus, that was my thing. I had two problems. One is, why aren't the laws being enforced? And I kind of just saw everything in a courtroom one day sitting there, everything's flowing from the attorneys for the foreclosing party who has no real interest in anything. And so they're kind of desperate to get their stuff in, but they think they're fine. Your attorney knows that he lied to you, that he cannot help you because the problem is the one that I figured out and he really can't. And I'll explain that. So the law's not being enforced. What are you going to do? Okay, well, what laws are still enforced? And you will, if you think back, if you're Perry Mason era or Matlock, well, I think he was a detective, but there probably was a judge there. Night Court wouldn't be any good for this. But Boston Legal, you'll hear, sometimes you'll even hear it on the news. Well, where is the injury in this? I understand what you say happened, and it sounds like somebody done you wrong, but where's your injury? Are you injured? And injury could be, it doesn't have to be, I broke my leg in a car wreck. It could be a breach of contract, which is what we have here. Um, an injury would be if someone really loans you money and you paid a note and they have it, or you gave them a note, they gave you the money, you spent the money, you've been making your payments. Um, and then you stop making them and you just live there and they say, look, either pay up or I'm going to have to take your house. And they still don't do anything. So what has to happen then is that you have to file a lawsuit in order to collect. Foreclosure is an act of collection. Um, and what the court's being run with us providing the judge with all this information. Oh, look at this case. Slorp. Slorp's the best case I have. I learned everything from Slorp. It was a federal appeals court case. It's on my website, um, and it's typed. If you'd rather read this, you know, or if you're better off this way, either way. But there's a lot on there too, a lot. Um, so it came down to the judge isn't enforcing anything. So what is the judge's obligation? What's my obligation? What's my burden of proof? What is my burden, period? What is the burden of the foreclosing party? And what's the burden of the judge? And I even got this a long time before I could make myself believe it. That the burden falls on, and this is not a non-judicial foreclosure state, we have to be the plaintiff. We have to sue first because Missouri said it wasn't, it isn't, it wasn't unconstitutional. This is how I lost, in 2011. It was not unconstitutional to say that you could be evicted even though no one really proved that they owned your debt. You couldn't even protest it. Now, in 2007, this is when I decided to get back into it. In 2019, I guess somebody went to Supreme Court, said, I'm going to tell if you don't quit doing that, because everyone has the right to a trial if it has to do with really anything, but number one, real property. There it is. That was always the answer. The judge isn't saying anything, and he's going to rule against you. She. And they may seem friendly, they may seem like they're trying to help you, or they may say mean things. They don't like pro se, and I've had them say plenty of times to my clients. Now, remember, I am not an attorney. I probably should have said that. Some of you people are gone, maybe all of you are gone. I'm not an attorney. I teach pro se. Pro se means I'm representing myself, and it is a civil right. Now we're going to get down to the Constitution. It's the Constitution that I use, and then I knew that all along. Most of what I use, I knew. In fact, is in my own case, I did what I do now. I did it 7 times. But what I tried to do is, all you can do is sue the judge. And because the only time a judge can be sued very easily, they have immunity, and they should have immunity. The reason they should have some immunity is that they're a judge, and they almost always have at least two parties against each other that they're supposed to rule on. And that means that somebody's mad at them every single case they have. And so if you could sue them easily, then they'd be sued all the time and no one would take the job and we'd have no judiciary. That the framers figured that out. Now they, within 10 years, both John Adams and Thomas Jefferson said we messed up. We gave them jobs for life, and they can't be fired, and we can't interfere with what they're doing. That was stupid. And look at where we are today. Who would have believed it? Who would have believed it? Okay, so the civil right that we're depending on is that the foreclosing party has to say when they're ready to foreclose in a non-judicial foreclosure, and they don't want to say, and they don't go to a court, so you're really not judicially foreclosed. You are non-judicially evicted. So they said, since you have a right to sue to get your house back, it's constitutional. That is the most unconstitutional thing I've ever heard of. It will until the last, till this era that we're in. But it's ridiculous, that no, you don't take my house and then make me sue you to get it back. You don't steal my car and I've got to sue you to get my car back. That doesn't make any sense. So the burden is originally on the foreclosing party. And in a judicial state, they file the lawsuit and called a complaint a lot of times. In Missouri, we called it petition, and all federal courts are complaints, so it's not that confusing, but yours is probably called a complaint. So I say lawsuit a lot. And that's why I say foreclosing party, because I don't want I don't want my clients to have to keep trying to jump back and forth, because it took me a while to say it right, you know, is that we're the plaintiffs. So in the case of a judicial foreclosure, Florida, New York, Illinois, in that case, um, the burden is on the plaintiff to write a lawsuit, and it must include words so close to these, it's got to be these, that we have suffered an injury. Okay. So they're claiming they have an injury. That's claim. That's like, oh, I lost the note. That's claim. Go get a new note by a judge because you proved it. And, now it's a fact. Okay. So they have to say they've suffered an injury and that it's an injury in fact. It's not a claim, it's real. And they have to prove it in the lawsuit at the time of filing. They have to have standing. Standing, we'll go a little bit further in a second. This is the doctrine of cases and controversies in the United States Constitution. That's what I'm using. A judge is really an arbitrator. In fact, we shouldn't call them judges, and we shouldn't use the word rule. They don't rule over us, they work for us. They shouldn't get to sit in those high chairs and wear dresses. Um, but it was the burden of the plaintiff, the foreclosing party, who's trying to say they have a right to foreclose, or they're creating the right to foreclose. They have to prove the injury is real. And I use this, that if you have somebody working for you and they don't come in to work and you call them, go, where are you, Jack? Well, I broke my leg. Okay, that's a claim. But does it prove his leg is broken? That's the reason he's not at work. So you have to go to his house and look at his leg, and it's got a cast on it. So still it's a claim, but he does have a cast on it. So he went to a lot of trouble for the claim, but it is not concrete and particularized proof. So you'd have to take him to a doctor or a hospital and pay to have his leg x-rayed through the cast. Now you have an injury in fact. So you must have claimed and proven with concrete and particularized evidence that you have an injury in fact. And number two, there's only three things. One of them is hard to even think about because it doesn't. Okay, number two, you have to also prove that the causation of your injury can be fairly traced to the defendant that you're naming in the case, to the defendant, with concrete and particularized evidence. So not only do you have to prove that you put up money for a loan, it was the defendant that took it. And now you don't have it, and that's an injury, or they won't pay you and give you the house or whatever, and that's an injury in fact. And then number three is that you have to be claiming something that the court, if they rule in your favor, it will redress your injury. That's not as important because we have plenty of problems getting to where I just went to, but that's also part of it. Okay, so it's the burden of the foreclosing party to sue you and to include proof and to therefore have standing at the time of filing. Well, that's still got to be proven because he's going to say that is proof. It's the judge, the guy that's not talking to us, the guy that's not answering our questions, the guy that's not ruling on our motion for summary judgment. It's that guy or girl, and mine's a girl. I mean, I'd fight her, you know, because she's made me mad enough. I wouldn't fight a girl normally, but she's not a real girl. She's a thief, um, a treasonous monster. But anyway, the judge's burden is to read that complaint, to find those words. And if the words aren't there, he has no standing. That's simple. The words must be there. They would have been until 1999. They would have been there. It isn't hard. If those words aren't there, he doesn't have standing. Standing is a component of his jurisdiction. It's, he's got subject matter jurisdiction over this case. It's been given to him. He reads this original filing. Now, in a non-judicial foreclosure state, you're the plaintiff. You send it, so we have to wait for his answer, for the foreclosing party's answer, but it's the same words. It's just done backwards. I think bankers lobbied in the 1800s for it. This is just a wild guess. And they just wanted houses back quicker, and they would get back on to court later on, or buildings, or whatever they was about. Okay, so the judge has to review it and determine if all the right words are there. And those words are called, and it's the constitutional, irreducible minimum requirement for standing. Okay, they have to meet that bar, that level. I've never seen a judge rule on it. I have and again, remember, I've seen even more cases than I've done. I've looked at more cases. I've looked through case law. I think it's 30 million times. Some people say 20 to 30 million. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 10 or if it was, 70. How would anybody know? I mean, everything's missing, including the beginning thing. The note is still out there somewhere in every case I've ever seen. Okay, so I've never seen the judges do it right. And yet, what was I going to do about it? So I sued the judges, my judges, in my own case, and they denied it. And then I had trouble finding out, well, what do you do? You know, well, you're going to have to do it pro se, first of all. You have to be pro se. And pro se by yourself, unless you have done as much as me, and I'm not that smart, I've just done it a whole bunch of times. So you have to do it pro se, and you can't do it in the judge's court. I mean, it's probably going to be state court where you are. You may be in federal court because they pulled you there. I had 50 cases in federal court and never filed any of them there. They just made us go there, but it didn't cost you anything. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to sue the judge, and this is the only thing that a judge can do for which any of the parties can sue the judge personally as an individual for damages. And that means the moment that he says anything, the moment he tries to hold a hearing, the moment that the defendants don't answer in any way, and they file a motion and he reads it, he's committed the crime of deprivation of civil rights. And that is, for a judge, that's the worst thing they can do. They can lie, and they still don't have to face the parties. They can make mistakes. They don't have to face the parties. They can make a mistake on purpose, and they have to answer to someone, but to other judges. That's like me and my friends judging me if I drank too much beer. Um, you know, it's they're not going to tell my mom. You know, um, so anyway, so that's where we are. Is that the judge has the foreclosing party has the burden of describing in concrete and particularized terms an injury they have claimed they have suffered, and that it's a fact because here's the proof. And they can also prove that it's fairly traceable to you, the defendant. That's Now we get to you. What have we all done? Think of everything you've done. Think of every piece of paper you could send me. You're going to tell me about the modification that you did, and you did it successfully, but then your servicer changed. You got a new servicer, and they said, no, you got to do it again, and you can't make any payments. until we get it done because we don't know what the payment is. What they're doing there is they need to get you 90 days late. So, and there's going to be a lot of people that, if there's a lot of people that even listen to me, if there's going to be a lot of people that are going, wait a minute, what? Um, your burden is only this. It's to say, I am not in default with this plaintiff. Don't know him. He wasn't at my closing. He doesn't have the note. I'm not in fault with it. Now, that didn't work, but that's everything that I knew, and that's everything I knew until this has been a 6 month run, and I'm now at 11 finished cases, one, and I didn't have to send any of them. I mean, I didn't have to sue any of them. I thought I would send 90, I'd have to do that 90% of the time. And it was because they filed things like bankruptcy, and they filed bankruptcy to stall, which was smart, so that when they find me, there's not a judge that there's a stay on the case. So no judge has looked at the case because I haven't written it yet. And so that happened. And then we'd have them replace judges, I think, to protect the judge that had been on the case for 2 years. So they put a new judge in, which, by the way, his burden is the same burden, and he's the one that dismissed it. And and I don't know if any recourse against the other or not. My people didn't have enough money to give me to chase the other judge. They had their house, and it's weird. It's weird to win, after such a long time, 15 years. I lost everything. You Important people to me, money. Uh, 14 years of my life. I was young when I started this. Look at me now. I'm 104 years old. Um, so all you have to say is, I'm not in default with these people. No, you have to say one other thing. You have to say, I'm challenging the standing of the plaintiffs, the foreclosing party, whatever you got to call them, because of all the stupid ways they do it. I'm challenging standing, and since it's a component of subject matter jurisdiction, I am also um, challenging subject matter jurisdiction. Now, this was harder to get through to the judges, so I think most of them just went and found some bigger kid judges to ask them about it because they didn't do anything for a while, nothing. And then, bam, dismissed it in favor of my guys. And there when any graffiti falling from the buildings. There weren't any cheering, no horns, no air horns, no marching bands, no floating things. It was just over. Walk out, you know, walk out, and it's signed. And the other thing about that is that when they filed, they're filing a false claim, but mainly is if they did not put in those words, then their case is already void, which means standing did not exist and subject matter jurisdiction didn't exist. And by law, standing, because it's so important, this isn't just real estate, this is every contract law case in the country, and everything is contract law. You sign the ticket at the cleaners that you'll pay this. Everything is contract law except criminal and family. They're off in their own world. Borrowers have been treated different the whole time. No judge ever said standing. Well, no, I have asked several judges. You know, um, I'm challenged standing, and I just had this happen in the 12th case that it's won, and this guy hadn't done anything wrong. Judge hadn't even done it yet, and he dismissed the case without prejudice, which didn't do anything because we filed it again the next day, except he'd moved the court. He moved the court. And when he moved the court forward, his immunity does not go with it. And it's because the law is very, 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 this is the law of the land. Um, that you cannot, a judge or any officer of the court, but we're talking judge, the judge of the court cannot deprive a citizen of a civil right. It isn't allowed, so that doesn't exist. It's not like he can do it accidentally. It's not like he can do it in defiance. When the judge has not, if first of all, if he doesn't review, then he certainly can't do anything. He can't find standing. He can't find the words that we are claiming to have suffered an injury if they didn't write it down in the lawsuit. If they didn't write it down, it doesn't matter if they could have, if it was true that they are injured. If they don't say it, they don't have standing. They have to say it. The judge has to see it. He has to declare it standing. And this is another thing they had a lot of trouble with. They have to write it out. They have to read it and write out what their determination was and how they arrived at it. Which means that if the foreclosing party didn't write, we have suffered an injury, in fact, um, then the judge, if he goes on with standing, means he didn't read it because there's no opposite. This is solely the framers wanted to be simple. They wanted everyone to be able to understand law and they want to be logical. And I just have been talking logic to you and not, you know, what you're going to see over and over. You're going to see in your state, it'll be called something like 12B6, Rule 12B6, and that is that you have failed to state a claim for which relief can be given. Okay, that's backwards. It should be you asking them that. They sued you. You know, you didn't make any claim except you say, I'm not in default with these guys. Now you are in default with, if you haven't paid and you know you haven't paid, you owe somebody. Now, this is just a bonus in life that you never get, but you went through hell to get to it, but you're not ever going to find your note. And no one can bring it to you because somebody, is looking at 20 years in jail. They sold them 10 times. They sold your note. Now 10's not a number. It could be 100, it could be 5, but there were maybe 20,000 loans in a mortgage-backed security, and you can't put something in there that investors invest in and then take it back out. And you'll find that if you go to your recorder's office, you're going to find almost surely that things have been recorded since the last time that you even thought about it. And what I'm doing is I explain to you that the process I go through now every time is I'm just clicking these off. And I've done it so many times, I just click them off. So your whole burden was to don't talk. And what do? We yap. We get an attorney. What do? Yap and yap and yap. Now, here's the reason your attorney can't help you is because deprivation of civil rights is a constitutional violation. A judge that commits deprivation of civil rights is at war with the Constitution, and he has committed treason. I, if I wrote something for you, you're going to find that in there, and you're going to see what the case was, when it happened, um, you know, and actually, that's not. There's a couple more, but I think I've gone way too long, and you can't possibly still be listening. My next video, which I'll do right away, and I might do it like next, I want to talk about trying to raise money so that everybody gets a fair deal at this, but I can't afford it. I can't do it anymore. I spent way more than I took in, and over the years, from 2000, 12 to 2017, I'd have 10 clients at a time, and most of them paid, and it's because they could. They hadn't been worn out. I mean, if you right now have been fighting this a long time and you're out of money, I almost my question of you is going to be, did your lawyer do that to you? And you're going to, yeah. Well, did he do any good? No. Well, here's their problem. I talked to 142 lawyers over a 3-year period, I believe, way back, and I found 3 different groups. I found um, the the lack of soul group. And I remember talking to a guy, I had 10 clients, and he said he didn't know anything about it, but he could look into it. And then we talked a while. He said, but I need a $5,000 um, retainer. And I wasn't thinking about doing that. I mean, I was thinking about it. At that moment, at that time, I could have done it, but I needed to hear him say anything that sounded like he even had heard of what I was talking about. Then he said, for each of your clients. Now he wanted $50,000, and he's going to have to go read about it. He didn't understand what I was saying. Okay. Then there's the second group. And by the way, they were actually split almost evenly into thirds. The second group said, you can't sue a judge. Okay. So, I asked more, and that's an answer I got a lot. Then I talked to some really smart guys, and some of these guys I knew like very well, some and some pretty well. And one guy answered it, you know, uh, um, this way, and I thought it was the perfect answer. He told me the whole deal. He said, Danny, I was sure I was going to tell you that you're wrong. He said, I was sure. He said, but you're right. Every single thing you've said is right. And here's the two problems. One is it's so big. This is as big as you think it is. And he said, neither one of us can even begin to fathom how they keep doing it or how it can be in so many places. But you're right. He said, it's so big, it's like looking at the earth and trying to look at the earth while you're standing on it. The only way to get a good look at the earth is to get into a rocket ship and fly to the moon and turn, this is what he said, and turn around and look back. And honestly, that helped me a lot. It mostly helped me to have a lawyer say you're right. The um, the second thing about lawyers and why you can't win with them is that it's because this is a constitutional issue and because deprivation of civil rights is the worst thing a judge can do. A judge ought to be better off shooting someone, out on the courthouse steps. That's an exaggeration. I kind of lied. Um, but since it's the worst thing a judge can do, if a lawyer accuses the judge of it, if he pushes it on him on that, and they think the guys that told me this, and they think that the judge is going to survive it because they do, because they have on me, they have on you. They don't. They're not on me now. Although I haven't done it, I haven't hurt anyone yet because they did the right thing. That blew me away. They did the right thing because I decided I had to take judges out of the comfort zone. In a courtroom, everyone is worried, even the foreclosing party, because especially in their case, I think they're racketeers. I think there's many more people involved and they need the money. And they're trying to get all of the money, even the money that you're owed. That's actually, I do have that in a video here, and I'll explain it more sometime. And I want to do Zoom things. I believe is one way for us to get somewhere, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Uh, but anyway, if if a judge has an attorney accuse him of committing a constitutional crime, he'll get even. That's what they said. He'll seek vengeance. And they didn't say, and if he doesn't survive this, if he gets disbarred, they can be disbarred for this. Um, you know, here's what I tell people, and I told the judge this, that I'm going to go by and look at his house, see what it's worth, and that's going to be what I want for damages because I want to foreclose on him. And I'm somebody, I have trouble being impolite. I have a lot of, and I have been outrageous in this last 6 months to a year because of another deal. And I don't, and it's what works. So we have to get the judge out of where he's comfortable, and that's in his court where he's letting all this information. I just hit the thing again. But he's letting all this information come from all the parties and head toward his chair where it just gets stuck in the foam of the chair. Um, he- he's, you know, he's so comfortable. I a lot of times think they learn to sleep with their eyes open. You know, they don't write anything like they should. I've been in federal court in 60 cases. I've been to file documents at the court clerk in federal court. The U.S. Marshals that run the metal detector say hi, Danny, when I come through. It's an enormous building in Kansas City, enormous. And you can hear people walking, on the other side of the round area at the beginning. And it's got to be, I don't know, 15 or 20 stories, but just huge. I have never seen a courtroom, never seen a judge. 50 cases, 60 cases. I don't even know. Um, and so I would want you to know that if in this plan, if the judge has already committed the crime in state court, then he'll chew his arm off before he'll admit it or try to change it, because by changing it, he will admit it. And so with them, I think it has to go fast. And we did that and it worked. Um, it has to go fast. You have to sue him. So if it's Judge Clarence Smith, we sue Clarence Smith individually. He wasn't a judge when he deprived you of your rights because a judge cannot deprive you of your rights. So it couldn't happen. So if in fact the case was moved forward and he's the one that did it, then he couldn't have been a judge when he did it. That's what he did wrong, and that's where we got him. And I haven't seen anything. I mean, I thought, winning two in a row would be wonderful. At five, I just thought something was wrong. It was a trap. And even right now, I don't feel it. You know, it's something I tried for so long, and I said, where was the parade? That could I have been? I should have got the key to the city. Whatever. But it's odd. It's just over when it happens. They don't put up a fight because there isn't a fight. The foreclosing party never claims anything other than you signed a note somewhere and you signed a, a security instrument, mortgage or do you trust, and then you got into default, and then you didn't cure it, and so now they have a right to foreclose on you. Whoever's writing it, or they, do they mean Russia? Who's they? And so that's, and then they're you know, you've made a claim for which relief cannot be granted. They do over and over and over. And they will constantly do motions to dismiss, but they don't try anything else because there isn't anything else. Either standing existed when they filed the foreclosure on you, or it can never exist at all. And it's void. And it's called void ab initio, which means from the moment it existed, it did not. That's my version. I'm going to talk. There'll be another video real quick. I mean, it'll be this morning, unless it's already noon, and that's nowhere near noon. Okay, it'll be this morning, and what I'm going to do is I want to talk about how we can raise money in several different ways. One way would be to get enough, with 30 million people being foreclosed, surely to God, we can find a way to get them to click on this channel. This is the reason for the channel. But first of all, yeah, you've got to educate people to what I think will work. And you've got to be able to ask questions of me uh, because of the parts where you doubt me, and you will doubt some of this. Um, but we have to get people to subscribe, and then we have to get enough subscriptions so that they join, and then I have to have ads on it. Then who's going to pay for all my people are anyone that flipped past it and clicked on it. And it's more money than YouTube ever made with it because they're Google. And look at all of it. I use Google and I hate Google. I hate Google only because they're big and I don't like anything big anymore. And I think their headquarters is on the moon. because the same side of the moon faces the earth all the time and lights it up like a spotlight, and that's how they watch us. But Google stuff works. I think that we can raise money for that, and I'm going to put together, some kind of a association, a fund, or something, and we need to help as many people as we can. And we don't have to win them all. We should win all the ones we want to win all the ones we do, but we don't have to beat everybody. All we have to do is win enough that all the people that didn't get to win, and people are mad at me right now, and I know they are, and I feel horrible about it. I don't have time to read this. I've been trying to do this video for 2 months, and I was going to do it every single day for 2 months. Now, I'm I'm absolutely going to make myself. I'm not going to take anything for the moment, and that's not to say that I wouldn't for a good reason. But right now, I'll talk to people, but I don't have a lot of time because I don't know how to use anything on YouTube. I need to have these cards at the end that say, click on here so that we keep them on there. Well, by the way, it's the amount of time they stay on also. So what you need to do is when you leave, you out for dinner, turn on YouTube, turn on one of my videos, press play, and leave. And then I'll get somebody watching for 2 hours. And it might have been only a 20-minute video. But if we can do that, we can help other people. Now I have to go after a $600,000 house, and I've got to do it now. I know how to now. It ruined my life, and these people will die, and I will die, and I will never get even. And I am not even a get even person. I don't carry grudges. I do now, but not only one, two grudges. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. If you're one of the people mad at me, I hope to make it better. And in the next video, I'm going to explain that more too, but this is too long for a video. Um, I hope you watched at least the first 30 seconds. Danny Hammond signing off with my finger because I don't know any other way.